All right, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be cracking open the doors, Morrison Hotel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, their fifth studio album. And you sent over some great lyrics from
Yeah.
Songs on Demand and some info to help us kind of get the most out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, this album is really considered a return to form for the Doors. It hit number 4 on the Billboard 200
Yeah.
and actually did even better in the UK,
Yeah.
where it reached number 12, which is
Yeah.
their highest chart position for a studio album there.
It's interesting, because that shift back to that blues rock, it really seemed to resonate with audiences.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating how that blues influence kind of manifests itself here. There are so many layers to unpack, from like those raw lyrics about shady sisters and midnight whirlpools to, that really gritty blues rock sound.
Well, and it's not just any blues influence. This album has a very specific Chicago blues sound, particularly noticeable in Robbie Krieger's guitar work. You hear echoes of Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf in his riffs, which is interesting considering their previous album, The Soft Parade, leaned towards orchestral arrangements.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a pretty drastic departure, almost like they were shedding a skin. Do you think that was a conscious decision on their part to sort of like
Yeah.
reestablish their identity?
I think it's more nuanced than that. The Doors were always pushing boundaries, experimenting with different sounds. The Soft Parade was their exploration of psychedelia and orchestration. But perhaps with Morrison Hotel, they felt a pull back to their roots, a desire to reconnect with that raw, blues-driven energy that initially ignited their music.
Yeah. So let's talk about that energy then. I mean, the album kicks off with Roadhouse Blues,
Yeah.
and it just explodes out of the gate.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's this real sense of urgency, a need to break free, almost like a runaway train hurtling down the tracks.
You've got those iconic opening lines, keep your eyes on the road, your hands upon the wheel. I mean, where are we going? What's the destination?
That's the brilliance of it. It's not about a specific destination. It's about the feeling, that escape, that wild, untamed energy that, defined the youth culture of that era.
Totally. And that energy kind of bleeds into the next track, Waiting for the Sun.
Yeah.
Now, this one feels different, more introspective, almost melancholy in places.
Yes, and it's interesting because this song actually predates Morrison Hotel.
Oh,
It was originally written for their second album, but didn't make the cut. Its inclusion here, I think, speaks to that undercurrent of longing, of searching for something just out of reach, which is a theme we see throughout the album.
yeah, Morrison sings, "This is the strangest life I've ever known." It's like a confession, a glimpse into his soul.
It's almost as if he's looking back on his life, questioning his path, and acknowledging the strangeness of this journey he's on.
Yeah. Then we jump into Peace Frog, and things take a darker turn, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This one is full of vivid imagery, almost nightmarish at times. Blood in the streets, ghosts dancing around a fire. You get that feeling of unease, of lurking danger.
And yet there's also this beauty, like that woman driving away with sunlight in her hair.
Mm.
What do you make of that juxtaposition?
It's fascinating, isn't it? You have these unsettling images of violence and darkness, and then these fleeting moments of hope and light. Perhaps Morrison is suggesting that even in the midst of chaos and turmoil, there's always a glimmer of beauty, a possibility for redemption.
Right, so we've got this escape in Roadhouse Blues, introspection and Waiting for the Sun, and then this descent into darkness with Peace Frog. Where do we go from there?
Well, with Ship of Fools, the journey takes on an almost apocalyptic feel. Yeah, Ship of Fools kind of takes us out of the internal and into the external. It's a commentary on the state of the world, lines like, the human race is dying out and the earth is burning. It's a stark contrast to the personal struggles we're exploring in those previous tracks.
It's almost prophetic when you think about it, especially considering the growing environmental concerns at the time. It's like they tapped into this collective anxiety about the future.
Yeah, and it's remarkable how relevant those themes still feel today, with climate change and political instability looming large. It really speaks to the power of their music to transcend time and connect with audiences across generations.
Totally. Okay, so from the apocalyptic visions of Ship of Fools, we land on Land Ho.
Yeah.
Now this one feels like a wild ride, almost like a story within a song.
Oh yeah, Land Ho takes us back to that bluesy storytelling tradition. You've got Grandpa the Whaler, these shady sisters, and this really sudden turn to violence. It's like Morrison is weaving together these disparate elements to create a sort of surreal, almost theatrical experience.
Here's that line. "If I get my hands on a number 5, gonna skin that little girl alive."
Which is pretty intense, even for the Doors. It's jarring, definitely. It's a reminder that within Morrison's exploration of, you know, freedom and rebellion, there's always this darker element, a hint of danger lurking beneath the surface.
Right, so we've gone from a road trip to introspection,
Mm.
to societal collapse, and now a surreal sea shanty. And that's just the first side of the album.
Yeah, side two, titled Morrison Hotel, continues this exploration of dark themes and blues rock energy.
Okay, let's dive into it then. It kicks off with The Spy, which always struck me as particularly eerie.
The Spy delves into themes of voyeurism and hidden desires. The lyrics create a sense of paranoia, like someone is always watching, always listening, you know. It plays on those primal fears of being exposed, of having your secrets laid bare.
Yeah, there's a real sense of unease in Morrison's vocals on this track.
Yeah, it's like he's whispering those secrets in your ear, drawing you into this world of shadows and hidden desires. And then in contrast, we have Queen of the Highway, which tells the story of this free-spirited woman who chooses a life on the road over societal expectations.
There's a real sense of liberation in this song, an embrace of freedom and individuality. But then she marries the monster in leather. And you kind of wonder if that freedom was an illusion all along.
Exactly, it's left open to interpretation. Did she find true freedom, or did she simply trade one cage for another? It's a question that resonated with many people, especially during that era of, counterculture and social change.
Yeah. And then you have Indian Summer, this beautiful, almost melancholic track with that repeated line, love me 2 times, baby, love me twice today. What's the story here?
Indian Summer captures that feeling of fleeting love, a brief moment of warmth and connection before the cold sets in. It's stripped down musically, a simple, repetitive structure that emphasizes the raw emotion of the lyrics.
It's a nice moment of respite before we reach the final track, Maggie McGill.
Oh yeah, Maggie McGill is a full-blown blues lament. It takes us to the underbelly of society, to Tangytown, a place of hardship and despair, and yet there's this undercurrent of resilience, a refusal to be defeated by circumstance.
Musically, it's pure Chicago blues. You can really hear those Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker influences in Krieger's slide guitar work.
Absolutely. It brings the album full circle, back to those blues roots that the Doors were so keen to reconnect with, and it leaves the listener with a feeling of both sadness and hope, a recognition of the struggles of life, but also the enduring power of the human spirit.
So we've explored the lyrical themes, the musical journey, and the historical context of Morrison Hotel. But let's talk about the sound itself. This album has a raw, almost live feel to it, which is quite different from the more polished sound of the Soft Parade.
Yeah, that raw energy is a key element of the album's appeal. They recorded it quickly in just a few weeks, and that spontaneity translates directly to the music. You can feel the band feeding off each other's energy, creating this raw, visceral sound.
And the production really highlights that energy. You've got John Densmore's powerful drumming driving the rhythm section, Ray Manzarek's swirling organ adding this psychedelic texture, and of course, Robbie Krieger's blues-infused guitar riffs. It's like each instrument is a character in the story, playing its part to perfection.
And then, of course, there's Morrison's voice. It's raw, powerful, and full of emotion. He's not simply singing the words, he's inhabiting them, conveying the pain, the longing, the anger, and the joy that fuels these songs.
Yeah, there's a real sense of vulnerability in his performance,
Yeah.
especially on tracks like Waiting for the Sun and Indian Summer. It's like he's letting us in, giving us a glimpse into his soul.
And that vulnerability is what makes him such a compelling frontman, right? He's not afraid to expose his flaws, his insecurities, his darkness. It's that honesty, that rawness that connects with audiences on such a deep level.
Yeah, and it's interesting how his vocal delivery changes from song to song. He can be playful and seductive on Land Ho, brooding and intense on The Spy, and almost tender on Indian Summer. It's like he's a different character in each song.
Exactly. He's a master of vocal dynamics, using his voice as an instrument to convey a wide range of emotions. And that's another reason why Morrison Hotel is such a rewarding listening experience. It's constantly surprising you, challenging you, and drawing you deeper into its world.
So we've talked about the music, but I have to ask about the album cover. That iconic photo of the Doors standing in the doorway of that rundown hotel. It's just pure rock and roll, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It perfectly captures the gritty, rebellious spirit of the album. The photo is taken by Henry Diltz, a renowned walk photographer, and it's become one of the most recognizable images in music history.
It's funny, they almost didn't use that photo. The band initially wanted to use a photo of a riot, but their record label vetoed the idea. Can you imagine how different the album's perception might have been with that imagery?
Yeah, it's fascinating to think about. The Morrison Hotel photo has this raw authenticity that perfectly complements the music. It's a snapshot of a band on the edge, ready to unleash their raw energy upon the world.
And it also reflects the album's title,
Hmm.
grounding it in a real tangible location. It's not just a collection of songs, it's an experience, a journey into the heart of Morrison Hotel.
Yeah, it really does feel like you're stepping into another world when you listen to this album.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Morrison Hotel. It's more than just a collection of songs. It's a complete artistic statement.
So we've talked about so much already, but what stands out to you as the most significant aspect of Morrison Hotel? Is
Mhm.
it the return to their blues roots, the raw energy, the lyrical depth, or perhaps the album's reflection of the turbulent times in which it was created? It's tough to choose just one, but I think what makes this album so compelling is the way all those elements come together to create this cohesive, immersive experience. It's the rawness, the vulnerability, the willingness to explore both the light and the darkness of the human experience. And it's the music itself, that fusion of blues, rock, and psychedelia that creates a sound that is both timeless and utterly unique.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. So as we reach the end of our deep dive into Morrison Hotel, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
I think it's this. Morrison Hotel is an album that demands to be experienced, not just listened to. It's an album that challenges you to think, to feel, and to connect with something deeper within yourself. It's an album that, despite its dark themes, ultimately offers a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the midst of chaos and despair, there is always beauty to be found and always the possibility for redemption.
Yeah, beautifully put. And for you listening, we encourage you to go back and listen to Morrison Hotel with fresh ears. Maybe you'll discover something new, a hidden meaning in the lyrics, a subtle nuance in the music, or perhaps a connection to your own life experiences.
And here's something to ponder as you listen. Imagine yourself back in 1970, a young person grappling with the social and political upheaval of that era. How might Morrison Hotel have spoken to you then? Would its themes of rebellion, freedom, and the search for meaning have resonated with your own experiences?
It's a fascinating thought experiment, and it reminds us that great music transcends time, connecting with audiences across generations. So whether you're a longtime fan of The Doors or a new listener discovering their music for the first time, Morrison Hotel offers a rich and rewarding journey. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.